Hi guys. All right. Well, welcome to week 2. We can do this. We have spring break coming up, which everybody should be happy about. So, last week you guys worked on trait theory. Sorry. Now, what I noticed on trait theory, you guys are doing really well so far. But I do have 9 people who have not turned in the trait theory review, and then I have 9 people who have not done the check for understanding Google form. I'm not entirely sure if those are the same set of people yet because I need to grade them, but 9 people need to, check. So check to make sure you turn in your work. Okay, so what we're going to do today is actually go back to the first psychological theory on personality, which is psychoanalytic theory. So this is going to start with Freud. Now, while you guys are looking at, or we're learning about Freud and his theories, you should be using the terms and concepts page that I posted. All right, so we go into the classwork. There's 2 places where you can find it. The first is, here. Okay. So the personality theory stuff. Again, if you can print it out, I would recommend that you do so. So you can find it here. So what we're looking at today is Freud, so the unconscious, the id, the ego, the superego, and defense mechanisms. You can also find this on last Thursday's e-learning. So it's the personality theory key terms. It's right here as well. Okay, so we're going to look at psychoanalytic theory. We're only talking about Freud today because you guys are going to have a little bit of work to do with the defense mechanisms. And then we're going to talk about Jung and Adler tomorrow. All right, so psychoanalytic theory, psychoanalytic psychologists are that very traditional type of psychologist. You have, the psychologist, the patient tells the psychologist what's going on, and the psychologist analyzes it. So this is a very classic version of psychology. Now, Freud is the very first psychologist to develop the world's first complete theory of personality. Now, whether or not his theory is accurate or accepted by all is up for debate, but it is the first, which is a very exciting thing. So he also developed the idea of psychoanalysis, like we talked about before. So here's Freud. He was around right at the start of psychology, made it popular. He actually came to the United States for a little while, lectured at a couple of places. The US fell in love with psychology, but Freud did not fall in love with the US. He didn't like our food. It upset his stomach. So anyway, this is Freud. Okay, so Freud believes in what's called the unconscious. So this is a large part of every person's personality, and he believes that we are driven by things that we aren't aware of, the unconscious. Okay, so he believes we don't actually forget painful things from our childhood, but we store them. Now remember, his theory of developmental psychology focused only really on the ages of birth to the age of 12 or 13. So for him, those early childhood life experiences are what shapes our development and what shapes our personality. So those painful episodes from childhood actually influence our adult behaviors, according to Freud. So Freud has, in his theory, what's called the id, the ego, and the superego. Okay, so we're going to start with the id first. So the id is your unconscious wants and desires. So these are your instinctual and biological drives. These are also, going to be based on those stored memories. Our wants and desires are based on what's going on. Okay, it's just a person. Sorry. And then, so this is unconscious. What do I want? I want it now. I want it now. I'm going to skip ego for a second and go to superego. So superego is your conscious, your idea of what's right and wrong, and it conflicts with the id. So the id wants what it wants. The superego considers what's important for society or what you're allowed to do or what would be appropriate. Okay, so your superego is there. And then the ego is kind of the bridge between the two. So it's the part of personality that is most in touch with reality, tries to meet the demands of the id and the superego. It's the planning part. So your id might say, you know, oh, that package of Oreos looks delicious, let's steal it. Your superego would say, you can't steal, stealing is wrong. And your ego would say, hey, I have money, let me pay for my Oreos. Okay. Now you'll notice over here, this little iceberg metaphor. This is a really common way of looking at Freud's theories. So you have your unconscious mind, and notice that most of what's going on is in your unconscious and your conscious mind. So your id and your ego and your superego are in your conscious mind. You're aware of what's going on, but you're still mostly driven by the unconscious, and that's the key part of Freud's theory. Your unconscious, your past experiences, they influence the most of what we do. All right, so this is probably the best way I've ever come up with, you know, explaining this. So, whoop, go back. All right, so if we're looking at this, the devil on your shoulder would be the id, okay? This is what I want to do. The angel would be the superego. This is what you should do. And then yourself in the middle, trying to decide how to meet the needs of both. How are we going to plan? Also, if you've never seen this movie, it is The Emperor's New Groove, and it is very underrated, quite funny. Anyway, so you have superego, what should I do? The id, what do I want? And the ego, how do I get what I want without causing problems? Now, Freud also developed the idea of defense mechanisms. This is how the ego, which is like our personality itself, unconsciously protects itself against unpleasant impulses or circumstances. He believes that they're very necessary, and if you remember from developmental theory, we actually sublimate, we push down all of those sexual and aggressive urges in order to learn defense mechanisms as an older child, so 9 to 12. So these are very important. However, even though it's important to have defense mechanisms, if you rely on them exclusively, you will never actually stop and face your problems. So for Freud, it's necessary to have defense mechanisms, but you also need to figure out how to actually solve your problems. Which brings us to the assignment for today. What you're going to do today, if you go to our e-learning stuff. So again, remember, always go into classwork. Oh, hold on. It's in this class right now. Okay, so you always go to classwork. Your assignment will be right here. It's defense mechanisms. All right. There will be a document that you can click on that will have the defense mechanisms right here if you didn't download the terms and concepts. So you can just fill out this document, which will be attached to that assignment, and you'll be able to turn it in. Or you can use the document that you downloaded earlier if you downloaded the personality theory terms and concepts. You're going to use the textbook. So it's going to be pages 387 to 389, literally just this first top part of 389. So all the defense mechanisms are there, explanations and examples. I would very much encourage you to use the textbook, not the internet. The textbook has everything you need in one place, and it has the appropriate amount of information. The internet's going to have so much information that you might get buried in it. So just use the textbook. We'll review the defense mechanisms tomorrow, and you'll be good to go. So just use the textbook. Don't Google all of those defense mechanisms. You'll find way too much information. Okay. All right. So that's all we're doing today. So all you need to do today, watch these notes, fill out the Freud parts of the terms and concepts, and work on the defense mechanisms, which again are on page 387 and 388, and a little bit on 389 of the textbook. So let me know if you have any questions. I'll have the Zoom meetings. You can email me. You can set up a meeting, and we'll get this done. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow if I don't see you at any of the Zoom meetings, and hopefully we will all get through this e-learning madness in one piece. So I will talk to you guys later. Bye.